Hey friends, welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm your host, Ryan Estes. I am not AI. And today's episode is a masterclass in real-world AI application. I'm joined by Andrew Amann. He's the founder and CEO of 923.co, an AI product studio that's been building with machine learning and now generative AI since 2016. Andrew is a former nuclear submarine engineer turned serial founder. I thought I was the only one. And now he's here to demystify what it actually looks like to bring AI into your business. We dive into how he helped build ChuckGPT with FanDuel and San Antonio and Churros, of course. How CEOs should think about deploying AI agents to add extra hands to their team, and why the future of AI is actually 80% human and 20% technology. If you've been wondering how to identify bottlenecks in your business or where AI truly adds value, this one's for you. Let's get into it. But first, some business. Tired of agencies that talk big but move slow? Meet MoBurst, the AI-first mobile marketing agency built for brands that want results. We don't just optimize, we transform. From user acquisition and app store domination to creative that actually converts, MoBurst delivers 360-degree strategy with zero fluff. Want downloads? We've driven over 1 billion of them. Need creative? Our data-baked campaigns win awards, and our AI tools, they work while you sleep. Whether you're a startup scaling fast or an enterprise looking to break through the noise, MoBurst is your unfair advantage. Let's go from mobile-friendly to mobile unforgettable. Visit moburst.com and book your free growth consultation today. MoBurst, built to grow, driven by AI. Hey, Andrew, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Let's start with 923.co. I know that's your company, so explain to me what you guys do like I'm five.
Sure. So we're an AI studio, and I guess as soon as you say AI, I have to break down to a 5-year-old what AI is. So we are a studio that builds products that are robotically controlled. I don't know how to break it down like for a 5-year-old, but I'll just try my best. We build solutions, custom solutions for companies like FanDuel, Consumer Reports, and they hire us specifically not just for their innovation, but for how AI should be implemented into their business. And so we've been doing this since 2016. We used to do a lot of machine learning, which we called AI back then, but now we do a lot of generative AI stuff, which is predicting the next word and using the large language models to help people efficiently run their business like they never have before.
Cool. And it looks like doing research on you that it used to be kind of a venture studio. Now is it just kind of an independent agency?
Yeah. So in 2016, we sold our first company. It was a digital business card. And if you've ever used QR codes before on your phone, we were one of the first companies to come up with that idea of transferring information between two phones using a digital business, like a QR code. And so we had a business card solution that we sold. And at that time, we thought it'd be fun to start another 13 companies. And so we had the agency, we had the team, and we were tasked to build that product into another company. So we were consultants, and we said, great, why don't we start another 13 companies? So at one point I had 5 CEOs and about 10 active companies that we were operating all at one time. It was a lot of fun. It was very stressful. It is not profitable. And we folded the idea of starting our own ideas, and now we just build for other people because 1, they have way better ideas, and 2, they already have a market.
Amazing. I get it. So I was also doing some research on you, and it sounds like you began as a nuclear submarine engineer.
That's right. So I graduated college in 2008 in Connecticut. And when you graduate down there, there's a lot of government jobs that you can take. And nuclear submarine was the one I fell into.
So which is harder, nuclear submarine engineering or managing 5 CEOs?
I would say managing 5 CEOs, especially because we hired a lot of young CEOs.
Yeah, that's so funny. Nice, man. Cool. So you're on the cutting edge. You're building AI tools for companies. It seems like right now, what I hear from a lot of people is they don't know what they don't know. They're kind of going into like AI app development or anything, kind of being like, we need to do something in this space, but we don't know what to do. Where do you see companies can really utilize kind of AI technology, whether it's LLMs or otherwise, into their businesses, broadly speaking?
Yeah, there's really two things that are happening in the marketplace right now. The first one is like a deterrent to our business, which is people are starting to understand that chatbots are not the AI solution they hoped they were. We saw Klarna, who fired 700 humans to install an AI chatbot, just hire those humans back. And the chatbots, because it's a non-deterministic system, doesn't always give the best answer. So our content team has been able to purchase a Chevy Tahoe truck for $1. That is something that you don't want companies or brands to get. Like they don't want to deploy that type of solution. But we're also realizing even as like an HR chatbot or a chatbot internally, it still has its problems and its limitations. Now, most of the products that I'm talking about were not built by an agency. They were built by an internal team who used the model and even partnered with OpenAI in some cases to deploy something correctly. What they don't think about is all of the edge cases. And we've been around for 9 years in AI. And since we've been around for that long, we create evaluation suites. We create these systems that can check and determine what type of response we can predict the AI is going to give, and then how accurate is it towards the actual answer that is brand safe. One of the projects we just recently completed was FanDuel. They asked us to build ChuckGPT, which is Charles Barkley's AI bot on the commercials for, if you've seen Chuck get made fun of by a little tiny AI bot, that's our little bot that we helped modify and build the software for. It took about 3 to 4 days to build the concept around how Chuck is going to talk like Charles Barkley, but it took about 4 to 5 months to restrict it from saying the things that FanDuel does not want to say on brand. It can't talk about DraftKings. It can't give bets. It can't do all of these things that would be like sacrificial to the company itself that you're trying to get more eyeballs for, but you're also trying to keep brand safe. And so the second part of your question, the second part of my answer is what CEOs should really be looking at is where can I give an employee a set of 8 hands? How can I give them the opportunity to go to work just like they do every single day? And I put a piece of software on their computer, and instead of getting an output that 2 hands can create, I want an output that 8 hands can create. And if a CEO is thinking like that, the other 6 pairs of hands are coming, well, I did the math very wrong there. The other 3 pairs of hands, which totals 6 hands, are coming from an AI agent or an AI worker. And our job as an agency now is to be the middleman between a large language model or AI and agents. And we can deploy these agents in any way possible. Software is unlimited with the possibilities, but we can deploy them to be effective, or we can deploy them to be non-effective if they've chosen and they want that, right? But we can program them and we can orchestrate them. And just like a general in an army, we can manage those agents to do specific things for a company and then allow that company to either gain more revenue or reduce their cost, which both create profit.
Yeah. I didn't realize ChuckGPT was a real thing. I thought it was just like a funny gag on the commercial.
No, you can go to chuck.fanduel.com and have a conversation with Charles Barkley.
All right.
It's
you know what?
Very enlightening.
I'm going to test it if it's really Charles Barkley, because I'm going to talk about the women of San Antonio and the churros.
We had to be very careful around what Charles responded. So you will not break him. I can promise you that he'll say very positive things about the woman of San Diego.
That's so funny, man. I would have loved to been on that red team. Be like, all right, we got to get Chuck to trash the women of San Antonio. Oh, man.
So we have a product manager who has a husband who is actually fiance, they're getting married this year. He was very creative at breaking Chuck. And so he was great QA because he was able to break it before it went public. And yeah, there's some creative things that you can do, but at this point, he's pretty solid.
Nice. I love Charles Barkley. That's awesome.
Yeah, we all do. That's why it's like the best celebrity, because even like we were working with some of the partners and, we tout the name Charles Barkley. He has nothing negative on his name. He's such a great guy and like he's well liked and he says great things. And so, yeah, it was a good celebrity to start this with.
But between him and Shaq, I mean, it's just like the best duo ever.
Yeah.
At some point, they're like literally going to fight, but like until then, it's great.
Yeah.
Cool. When you
We had to watch a lot of YouTube videos. There's actually a 2.5-hour YouTube video about San Antonio and Charles Barkley, but we had to watch a lot of them to make sure that we're training it properly. And so I've seen a lot of Shaq and Charles banter.
I'll bet. Amazing. Okay. So when you're talking about kind of optimizing your CEO, your founder, you're bringing in AI agents to kind of, add 3 more pairs of hands. Is the promise of AI ultimately that we'll be able to 100x our output, or we'll actually have to reduce our effort by 100%?
Yeah, the 2 very obvious things to me is if you deploy AI correctly, like we have a consulting firm that was doing $500,000. Now they're doing $1 million with half the cost.
Yeah.
Right. So not only were we able to reduce their cost, we were able to increase their revenue because the people they had on their team were creating more revenue like tasks. They were doing tasks that were more revenue generating for them. Nobody was really fired, right? The cost was just coming from waste and extra time and hiring extra hours for people that didn't need to do that. And so CEO, when they look at this properly, they're not thinking about who am I here to replace or who am I here to kind of figure out where this AI should be deployed. They should be looking at what parts of my business are repetitive and should never have been done by a human in the first place. Keying, data entry, passing information from one department to another department, communication has a lot of waste involved in it. And those are the things that AI is great for. Like there's a furniture company that I know that has a bunch of invoices, and all of those invoices that are coming in are in different formats. And so there is a person that formats it correctly to be ingested into their QuickBooks. That is a repetitive task that can be easily taken from AI. Now, what does that person do? Well, they're in finance. They probably have a finance degree. They probably went to college. And therefore, they can do more revenue generating tasks that are not just keying information from an invoice into a system.
Yeah, I get it. And, your message is a little bit different, though. There's a lot of doom and gloom that AI is going to replace all our jobs. And I read on LinkedIn, you said that AI adoption is 80% human and 20% technology. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, the humans have to believe in it, and the humans have to be the ones that initiate it. And what I truly believe is that every AI solution we've deployed, at least, and the ones that go correctly, are human at the front, thinks of the idea, writes the outline, figures out what the AI should be doing. AI does that task, or an agent goes off and does that task, returns it back to the human, and before it goes production live, sends out email, hit send, the human has to review it. And so if you look at that percentage, it's human passing to an agent passing back to that same human or a different human for approval. And there should be a larger and larger percentage of what humans need to be trained on to not only do that process, but also be a part of that process. And the training of how a human starts using AI is what the 80% is, because you have to give them education. You have to give them the software. You have to tell them how the software can help their lives. They have to be committed to it, which means managerial skills. And I've been through this, I was working when the internet started, like basically going into businesses, right? I was working in 2008, 2009, 2010. And that's when manufacturing shops, especially in the government, were starting to understand how the internet can help their business. How can they go from a piece of paper to an Excel sheet or from an Excel sheet into some sort of SaaS software? And the fear was not we're going to lose our jobs. The fear is how do we make this more efficient and where is the value? And so what we do is provide value for the way to transition to the new internet, which is not replacing employees, but expanding the opportunities. And that's all human training. It's all human education, human to human knowledge, saying, here's a piece of tool that you should use and let me train you on how to use it.
Nice. I love that. Why do you think there's so much fear mongering in AI? Is it people trying to build regulatory moats around their government contracts?
Yeah, there's 2 things going on. ChatGPT is a fun party trick, and they know that. But they have the most eyeballs on their product right now because they've created this era of I was saying recently, if you could create the biggest need that humans have, like if you go back to the American dream, and you could promise them that there's a way that people could get to an American dream by not doing the effort or the work, that's what ChatGPT has come out with. And anyone that is like looking at skipping work or doesn't want to work or wants to be lazy or doesn't want to hit send on that email and not do the work, ChatGPT is like saving grace. And Sam Altman knows that. He knows that it's this magical potion that you can skip from idea to production without actually doing the effort. And so because that is there, he's touting this magical wizard or wand that can solve all of your problems. When you use it to write emails, when you use it to chat, you run into non-deterministic answers that make you sound foolish. Like, I know people for a very long time who have written me emails, and all of a sudden they're starting to say the words delve and forge. Like, you've never used that word in the past to me. Like, it's not you anymore. Like, let's go back to humans communicating with humans. Now, AI should edit it. There should be no grammar errors. There should be no spelling mistakes. There should be, like, the tone should be proper, right? Like, all of those AI can help with, but the humans need to be writing it. And your question about, like, where the fear is that if we become lazier and lazier and more humans continue to use this machine to answer their questions and do what I'm going to call human work that should be human work, we give up the fact of us learning. And so since Sam is touting that you should use it for everything, the fear comes, what happens if it is used for everything? And that's when you go into the dark spaces of, like, what are humans even necessary for?
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. There's a pessimism built into there that I think is kind of obnoxious. It's like, this is an unnecessary ploy to, like, get people in an emotional state. Okay, so I would like to do a little case study, because I know a lot of folks are probably like me. They have a company, they're looking for a way to implement agents into their workflows, but they have no idea where to begin. So what would be a good entry point for me as a founder of a company, kind of no point of reference to bring them 19.3?
Yeah. And it's not just us. There's a right way to do AI. And I believe this at this point, not just from watching our agency perform so well, but by so many, I have agency friends that are asking how to get into AI. And when I watch them do a successful project, there is a right way to deploy it. And the first step is being incredibly curious about a business and learning what they're doing from end to end. And if you just think about a widget factory and supply chain, you start from all of the assembled parts that are shipped from all around the world, landing in a place to be assembled. And at the end of the day, you have a widget. Where are the bottlenecks? Where are the constraints? And where are the problems that company has? The entire job of a CEO is relieving constraints from your business. And a business can only grow when the constraints are fully let go at a certain point, so that you can create more widgets with the same team that you have. And so constraints are truly the bottleneck. And if you can relieve those bottlenecks, you grow. So our job, and any agency's job that's worth doing the thing correctly, is looking at what the bottleneck is. If that can be solved with non-AI, fantastic. We have those skills for 15 years and we can solve it without AI. We can actually go in there and create a computer piece of software. We can add a piece of software. We can do whatever we need to do with deterministic systems and solve that problem. If that problem, that is the largest bottleneck of your business, needs AI, then we install the right tool for that. Maybe it's a $200,000 tool, maybe it's $1 million tool, but we know how to build both of them, and we know how to suggest that this is the right tool for the problem that you have. There is no difference from in the 1980s when all those consulting firms got a lot of props for instituting all the Japanese, like all their Kanbans and all of the different methodologies they do to move product forward in an assembly line. There's a lot of consultants that got paid very well because they were very efficiently able to go into a business and operate it in a more efficient manner. And they also told them how to push more product out the door with what they had. The organization, the way the machines are lined up, the number of times they can press the button, right? All of that matters. And so our job, and the right way to do this, is think of your largest constraint, figure out, is it technically possible to relieve that constraint? And then what is the technology that get put into place to make the entire system move faster?
Yeah. I like that you said it starts with a curiosity in the beginning.
Yes.
Do you find people that, like, sometimes the solution they're looking for is not the solution they need?
All the time. I mean, one of my favorite case studies is a wheel company out in Minnesota, Minneapolis. They basically install wheels on fighter jets and fire trucks and big trucks and vehicles that are not cars or pickup trucks. And they came to us and said, we want an iPhone app to take pictures of the wheel and send it to our database, and we automatically ship them that new wheel because the picture matches. Can you have AI match this rubber wheel with the code so that we can just produce this wheel and ship it back? We went into the whole case study, tried to figure out what was technically possible. And this is a very technically challenging problem because all wheels are black and round. They look very similar. The size obviously matters, but also depth you can't get from a picture. Very technically challenging problem. But we put all of their problems up on a board, and we found out that all the red sticky notes ended up in their sales problem. Like, sales does not have enough information to sell that tire. So what do? We didn't build an iPhone app. We built a database so that when the salesperson is on the phone, their HubSpot screen in front of them had all of the information about that sale and that tire and that like person that they're trying to sell to, so that before they hung up the phone, they can take action. No more getting back to them in 3 days. No more like waiting 5-10 days for a response or trying to find the information from the person that knows it on the shop floor. They can answer it right then and there. That's going to increase their sales tenfold.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't talked to them in a little bit, so I don't know how it's actually come out, but I do know that immediately when we installed that, you're starting to get more information at your fingertips, and you're solving the core essence of the problem, not the shiny object.
Amazing. I love that. And also it kind of ties into some of the other things you talk about, is the emotional limitations of AI. Are you a fan of Star Trek?
No. I mean, I know what it is and I don't mind watching it. It's not that I hate it, but I just never got into it.
So a little refresher. So from the original one, you had Spock, and he was half Vulcan, half human. And Vulcans are incapable of experiencing emotion. It's all rational. But because Spock was half human, that he could kind of fake his way. He kind of disliked his humanity, but also he got him out of a pinch many times. In the next generation, you had Data, who was like an android. He also did not have emotions, and he would try and fake it. Like, do you think that there's a future that we should be pursuing emotive LLMs?
There's a scene in Almost Famous that has like lived rent-free in my head since AI has come out. And it's at the very end of the movie when William finally sits down with Russell, the rock star, and Russell writes all the songs. And William goes, do you have to be sad to write a sad song? Do you have to be happy to write a happy song? And when I think of AI, when we're prompting it, the response we're getting back has no sense of our emotional state when we enter that prompt. Now, I also know from my team, I know from the mouse movements how old you are. I know from the speed at which you're typing a range of not only your emotional state, but how old, where you're from. Like, those types of things are all learnable through the keystrokes and through the mouse movements. So I know that AI has an understanding of the emotional state of the prompt that's being asked. Maybe the word choice, maybe it's the speed at which they're typing it in. And I wonder, can you get a response from an AI that is matching your tone, just like a human does?
Yeah.
If I come in this podcast and I start talking really slow and like doesn't really sound that interesting, but like I'm laid back, the whole emotional state of people listening changes. And we know that. So like you would respond slower, right? And if I come in excited or happy or sad, like the humans match that. And right now with AI, we're lacking that. We're lacking that emotional connection because it doesn't understand our emotional needs, but it also is not human. It doesn't know how to love. It doesn't know how to feel. What I am looking forward to is that the large language model is a part of a larger solution of creating AI models that become more sentient, like more human. And I don't think the large language model is the only way that we can get there. I think that we need something that understands thermodynamics fully and understands gravitational pulls and understands physics. I also think we need something else that understands emotions. And when you start mixing that together, not just with prompting, but with living on a device that's near you all the time, we can start understanding moods and how moods are not only predicted, but change throughout time. And so I hope that not one company owns this. Like, I hope ChatGPT just doesn't have a large language model that just knows this all. I hope we all have to figure out what model works for us, how we'd like that to be secure or not secure, and how it would communicate with other models which are owned by other humans. And I think that all has to play together in the next 10 years here.
Yeah, it's interesting because, the way it can learn about us emotionally, it can see us, it can hear us, it can witness your keystrokes and the velocity and the speed and the way the dexterity of the mouse. It's pulling in that information, which is kind of nonverbal communication. It can read our blood pressure, it can read our temperature, it can read our pulse. I wonder if there's an opportunity to like smell our pheromones. You know what I mean?
They're working on that.
I'll bet they are. I'm really interested too of like how it can express emote, or it can like relay our emote, in a way that's not necessarily text or audio. I've got a Nissan Aria, which is like a really cool electric car. And all of the communication it has, like when you put it in reverse, it has a tone. The different bells, like cars have always communicated with us in like really kind of multi-sensory ways that I think are really interesting for the future of emoting AI.
Yeah.
That's not because the 1.2 is just all of the robots. We know that.
Yes.
And every robot I see, when I see a face on it, I want to hit it with the baseball.
It's the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
If you get like Tim Urban has come up with this great concept. It's Tim Urban or the guy that writes Wait But Why, if you get a cartoon face, it's not human. But as you get closer and closer to a human face, if the closer you get, the farther the human thinks it's similar, because there's this weirdness to it that we don't understand.
Yeah.
And so we actually hate it more than we would hate like Peter Griffin. Right? Because we know Peter Griffin's a cartoon, so all these things can happen, and our mind doesn't try to connect like a human having that same experience. But I challenge people to think that maybe humans, like the bipedal, two-armed human, is not the best modality for AI. Maybe it doesn't need to be human, and that's fine. Because what we're building now is an army of agents that do specific tasks. We have one agent that's really, really good at writing SQL code. Does that need to be human ever? No, it just needs to be called on to write SQL code to query a database. Now, I know that's still software related, but maybe a robot is the same idea. I don't need a robot to be human to walk around my house. Maybe I need a trash can that just moves to where I am all the time, right? And it could have wheels and still look like a trash can and still solve the purpose that it's there to do. It doesn't have to be a human, right? So I challenge people to think of that as humans might not be the best end state for AI anymore.
This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, MoBurst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At MoBurst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to MoBurst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together. Anyways, to your point, do you like Star Wars?
Yeah, I mean, again, I've seen all the movies, but not a huge fan.
Imagine how annoying it would be to have C-3PO in your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you got R2-D2, you're stoked.
I see, but think of it this way. Like I have a Shark Roomba vacuum. That purpose of what it does is very singular, but it's very good. And it runs every day. It returns to its bin. 30 days, I don't have to touch it. And it operates. I just hope it doesn't break. That's the only thing I have to worry about. Now, the coffee maker, the same thing. Robots need to start communicating together between each other so they don't run into each other. That's like the first step that we need to. But there's a conference here in Boston that I go to every year, and it's a robot conference, and I absolutely love it just because I sit there and ask questions. And one of the things they said to me recently is, if you had to pick up an object, the bipedal human is the hardest thing to pick up an object because you have to balance, you have to support it, you have to make sure the weight is centered. But if you had anything on wheels or anything that's not a bipedal thing, you don't have the ability to adjust the way that a bipedal does. So we are very advantageous designed to do the things that human does, like picks up a box, as opposed to a fork truck that has to be in a specific area to pick it up. What we're not good at is, let's say you try to knock it over, how's the fail-safe switch go? Like if you push over a robot that's on wheels and it stops in spot and it doesn't fall over. Humans are very tippy, right? So if you're picking up a box that's very heavy, and sure, a robot can pick up something heavier, and then you go to say, hey, stop in your spot because you're about to hurt something, it's going to drop the box and fall over.
Yeah.
Right. So how do we have to design around these limitations, not just because humans, we are designed the way we are, we have to design around the purpose that is needed for the task at hand.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. I know we're at time. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What I want to do is a little game, word association game. I'm just going to throw out some people, places, or things. And if you've got a story or any reaction to it, let's go with that. You ready?
Okay, sure. Let's do it.
How about Black Mirror?
I haven't seen the show.
Are you a music
I know
guy
about it
then?
again. I do listen to music. I don't watch that much TV. So
Yeah.
I know about them, but yeah, I'm not. I watch The Matrix. If you pulled out The Matrix, I know those left and right. I mean, that was the era that I was watching a lot of television, but I haven't seen Black Mirror episodes.
The Matrix. What's your take on in larger simulation hypothesis?
I think The Matrix got a lot right. If you watch that movie back now, especially with what we know with AI, there's a lot of like signaling that they've had of how robots can take over certain aspects of our lives. The simulation idea is obviously a theory. I don't think we're living in a simulation. I think we have free will and we're humans and all that good stuff. But I do like the idea that in a few years, if Facebook and Apple get their way, goggles will be placed on many of the low-income humans. And I say low income because I think it's really important to distinguish what they're trying to do. They are going to put goggles on people to give them a better life than they currently have. And if you do that, people will live in those goggles longer than they need to because their life in the goggles are better than without the goggles. And so if you're struggling or if you're not able to go on vacation to the place you want to go, well, these goggles will help you. And that becomes dangerous because now you start having the simulation with half the population and not the other half. What the Matrix did was put the simulation in everybody's hands and you have different problems to solve. But when you have half the people living in a Matrix and half the people not, you start realizing that the people that are living in the goggles aren't susceptible to what is happening in reality. And I think we have to be very careful with that, not just as designers and product managers and people building products. We have to be careful with like separating the income levels with the technology we're building. And so what I think Facebook and Apple are trying to pull off is it's very difficult, but I also think it's not good for society, especially if the government doesn't get involved.
That's fascinating. I never thought about it like that. Do you think that's why Apple Vision Pro failed, as it was too expensive? You think if it was a $100 price point, then it would have been adopted immediately by low-income folks?
Yeah, Apple is trying to get down to the glasses because their iPhone, the trick that Apple pulled with everybody is that the iPhone is such a high quality device that if you're on an Android, you are not using a cell phone correctly. And so that's the whole green bubble, blue bubble thing. They want you to buy high-end products, even if you can't afford it, put it on a firm and use an iPhone because all your friends are using iPhones and that's what you're supposed to do. So Apple has that, which most other companies don't. I think what Apple is looking at for the future of the next iPhone is those goggles. And same with Facebook with the Oculus. If they can trap people in that world, that's how you increase screen time. Apple doesn't own any software. They don't own TikTok or YouTube. They don't have the places where your eyeballs are. And I always give the analogy of like Google's operation just evaporated and Apple's operations evaporated. Well, with Google, I lose my Gmail, my photos, my Google Drive, my workspace, all the documents I save in my company, all that's gone. And I'd be in a tough spot. But if Apple evaporated tomorrow, I just lose a phone. And I can just pick up an Android device and within an hour, be back up and running the exact same life that I had without an iPhone. And I think that's really important. And Apple knows that. So Apple's trying to figure out how do I keep people in our ecosystem? And if we can't do it with software, how do we do it with hardware? And so that's the direction they seem to be falling because they're not doing the AI thing. They're not announcing anything AI.
Yeah.
So what are they doing? Well, they're trying to keep people into their ecosystem. And the goggles is a way to get people addicted to technology in a way that is different than what Google's doing.
Why is Apple blowing it so hard with AI? I mean, they could easily create like a wearable. They already have it. You know, there's 100 million Apple Watches, you know, and iPhones.
They never invested in the software.
Yeah.
They have always looked at privacy as their saving grace and compared to Android. And they don't have the data. I just truly don't think like if I don't know how many percentages of people use specific email domains, but I imagine the Gmail one is of the top 50%. And if you add Gmail and Outlook together, you're now looking at probably a very high percentage of people using those two platforms and a very small percentage using iCloud or all that. So if you're not in your domain and you don't have the access to people's email because they're using Gmail, how do you build AI? How do you build predictive systems that are predicting the next word when you don't have the data to predict the next word accurately? And so ChatGPT did a great job because they downloaded the internet and it's very good. But once Google and Microsoft figure themselves out, and they already have this year, those models are going to be personalized for me to predict the next word. And that's what I care about. And Apple just doesn't have the data. So how do you double down on something you don't have the ground truth on? And I think they realize that. And they don't, you can see there's internal fighting. There's direction misleading because they don't know how to release these things. The commercials got pulled off the internet and off the NBA streams because they're actually not releasing the products that the marketing team said they were going to release. They're in a world of hurt right now, but I truly think it's just they never invested in having software.
Fascinating. All right. Elon Musk. This guy right now is at the center of the whole entire universe. It's bizarre. I mean, I'd love to hear your take on Doge, on kind of his initial investment and his relationship now with Sam Altman and what he's subsequently doing with Grok and turning X into Grok in some capacity. What do you think about Elon?
My product manager is always asking me as well, and she's the type of person that is not for Elon. So I don't have an opinion on Elon's direction. I don't have an opinion on if Elon's a good person or not. I think what Elon's doing is according to Elon's life and his agenda, and he has a very specific way of doing things, and I understand that. I recently reread the Benjamin Franklin biography, and the parallels between that is Benjamin Franklin got into government. Was part of the Declaration of Independence. And he also got into all of these inventions. I wonder if Elon lived at that time, would we be writing the biography the same way and touting him the same way we were about Benjamin Franklin? What Elon's done for technology, he's moved electric cars forward faster than anyone else has. Mm-hmm. He was able to invest his own money to get electric cars into a place that we all should be buying electric cars in the future. And that is single-handedly because of him. And you can't take that away from him. He pushed every car manufacturer to build electric cars 10, 15 years before they were ready, if they were ever going to, right? He told the world that electric cars are a good thing. And that is a great thing. He also is going to get us to Mars. And I don't think there's a government entity, even NASA, in anywhere in the world, that was going to get us to Mars in my lifetime. They just didn't have the means or the actual technology to do so, or even the reason to. And so I think Elon has this vision and he does it in his way and it frustrates people. But the success of what he's pulled off with just those two companies alone are monumental. And then with Twitter and Doge and those types of things, Benjamin Franklin got into government, and we all look at what Benjamin Franklin did as very successful because we finally put a technology-minded innovator into the government to form what we know as the American democracy. And he did it in his own way. Now, we weren't Fox News and CNN reporting every minute of Benjamin Franklin's life. We're looking at his biographies, and he actually wrote a lot of memos as a fake person that we now know is him, and we can follow along with what he was thinking. But we don't know what Benjamin Franklin was actually like. With Elon, we do, and it becomes very two-sided of is good or bad. I wonder in 100 years, if we look back and we look at just the credentials that he's pulled off, how monumental one human is that put us on the moon, put us on Mars, launched all of these satellites that were never in space before, created the internet in space, not on the ground, created electric vehicles to be a mainstream vehicle. And then I truly think he changed the direction of social media by what he did on Twitter. We were into this whole government in like participating in Facebook, and more is coming out about how government was using Facebook to control the narrative. Elon said no to that, and he created the freedom of social media. And so, like, again, Elon is Elon. He frustrates a lot of people, but his track record of what he's completed is pretty astounding.
Unbelievable. I mean, and that's not even talking about Starlink or Neuralink or the flamethrower. I mean,
yeah. I mentioned Starlink. Starlink is one of those things that we'll look back and we'll wonder why we ever had internet on the ground.
Totally.
It is such a monumental piece of technology that the world can have internet at all times.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love looking at it too, like Ben Franklin, because I love that guy too. I like his era when he, as a statesman, went to the parlors of France and wore like a coonskin cap and just charmed everybody and just told stories, like, That might be like an area that maybe Elon struggles with a little bit. Social interactions.
Yeah, I think Benjamin Franklin did too. I do remember that part, but I also remember the way he wrote those letters when he was pretending to be somebody else just to help his marketing thing. That is totally something Elon would do.
Yeah.
Like, right? He would create this persona and just have this marketplace of people. He would stand on pedestals and just announce that he's trying to do these things in government because he wants the change. He wants it to be better. There's a lot of impact that Benjamin Franklin had because of the way he thought. And what I do appreciate is that our government is susceptible and they're allowing people that are in the AI space, like David Sachs, to make decisions in AI. David Sachs, I mean, he's been in technology for a very long time. He's well respected. And when you have people like that in government, you start to believe that they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, totally. I'm a big Sachs fan as well. Cool. Couple of questions before we get out of here. If you were studying college as a freshman right now, what would you study considering the future?
I would learn how to be a good manager and learn the skills that it takes to be an apprentice. The first thing that you want to do when you get out of school is work for a boss and work for a big company. And we're going to have big companies for a very long time. So there's always going to be an opportunity for you to work for somebody. But you need to learn the operations of business in the year that you're graduating. If you start a company right away, you're trying to change the future too early for yourself, but you also don't know what it's like to be treated poorly. And as an apprentice, you become the lowest member on the totem pole, but you have to always impress and work and show up. And if you do that, you start to learn what it's like to grow your own reputation, but also get beat up a little bit. Then when you go into entrepreneurship, or then when you leave your apprentice job and you become a manager, you start to learn what it's like not to be treated like that. And you start to create these values that what it's, when you were treated bad, you're not going to do that. When you were told to do something and you didn't like how that felt, you change that. And so now you don't treat others like that. As a freshman in college, if you learn those two skills, you're going to be able to manage agents. If you're an artist, you're going to be able to figure out how to create paintings that are deployed on the internet that can't be copied. Those are the skills that are going to matter in the most. Is whatever craft, whatever technology, whatever software you get into for your profession, you're going to have to work with technology. And if you work with that technology, how can you manage it to make your life better? The internet came along. We're all still human. We all still do our cool stuff and our different jobs. There's hundreds of thousands of jobs that have been created from the internet. There'll be hundreds of thousands that get created with AI. So I wouldn't worry about what you do, just love what you do and be an apprentice as long as you can until you're ready to take the jump.
Love that. I love that. Wrapping up here, what are the AI tools or your favorite AI tools you use every day?
I used to have a bunch of answers for this. My answers today are get yourself into Copilot and Gemini. Get rid of ChatGPT. Get rid of these tools that are not going to be around for a very long time, because once it goes personal, you need to start putting all of your information where you want to work. So if your company works in Google Workspace, start using Google Workspace every day. If your company works in Office 365, start using Copilot. It is a waste of time to be copy pasting stuff out of whatever app you're in to another app and then bringing it back. Start using the tools that you're going to be working in the next 10 years. And if you have an Apple iPhone, get rid of it and find an Android device that has AI, because if Apple's never going to come out with AI, you're going to be a year behind. I know they're not coming out with this year, so you're already a year and a half behind what's happening in Google.
Andrew, I could talk to you all day, but I got a boogie. Thanks so much for doing this.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
You too.
Thanks.
Hey, founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out AI4Founders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new, or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025 and beyond. Hit AI4Founders.co to subscribe to the newsletter, tune into the podcast, and grab your spot in the next workshop. And it's all free. Build smarter, move faster, think bolder with AI for Founders. Now back to the show.